Okay, so in this video, we're going to be talking about how to do slicing in NumPy using NumPy arrays. So to start off, what I've done is basically gotten myself a very simple array, which is a equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And to do this, I'm just going to say np array, and there we go. And let me just do print a. Okay, so the syntax of NumPy is using the NumPy array is basically np dot array, and then you have parentheses, red parentheses, or I mean, I've highlighted using red parentheses, and then you have the square brackets. Okay, so let's get onwards with the slicing. So the first slicing that we're gonna do is going to be this one, which is going to be, let's say, let's call this a list, and let's call it list. I want from, let's say, 2 onwards. So what this will do is it will go to that position 2. So that's going to be 0, 1, 2. That's 3. And then get all of the elements onwards from there. So I get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Um, so what this tells us is that the first element in the slicing one is going to be the position. So let me just highlight this over here. So this is basically the position or the index, right? So this is the zeroth position. One would be 0. This is 1. This is 2. So on and so forth. The next one after this one. So what happens if I do something like this? So this would basically be equivalent to like this thing. So this would say, hey, get me um, everything from the starting till the index 2, but don't include the second index. Okay, so when I run this, I'm gonna get 0, 1, 2, but don't include the third one, so I'm gonna get 1 and 2. So this index, this part of the slicing refers to that, whoops, to that position, but don't include it. Okay, and the other way how you could think of that is saying, hey, get me okay, so another way how you could think of this expression is if I write something like list 0 colon 2, and if I subtract both of these, so that's 2 minus 0, that would return 2, and this 2 would highlight the number of characters, right? So that's how I like to think of it as well. So hey, start from 0 and give me the first 2 characters or the numbers. So that would be 1 and 2. So you will understand a bit more with the next example, which is from starting from 2 to 4. So this is from 2 to 4. And before I print this, let's basically try to figure out what the answer is going to be. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, right? I want from 2, so that's going to be 0, 1, 2. So I want from the numbers starting from 3, and that's going to be till 4. So 3 and 4, but don't include the 4. So it's going to return me 3 comma 4. That's going to be the answer. That's one way of thinking this, or the other way is with the usage of number of characters. So likewise, like I told you earlier, with doing 2 minus 0, we can do the same thing over here, and that's going to be 4 minus 2. So 4 minus 2 is just going to be 2, and you're going to start with the second position, and you're going to say, hey, get me 2 characters from there. So that's going to be 4 and 3. So let me just print this, and you get 3 and 4. Let's say I want 2 comma 5. So I'm going to start at second position, so 0, 1, 2, and 5 minus 2 is 3, so it'll get me the 3 characters. So 3, 4, 5, and there we go. So there are two ways of how you could think of this. One way is by saying, hey, if it's the first part of the index, if it's like the first part of the colon, so this would be your position, um, and this would be position, but don't include that. Don't include that. Or the other way how you could do this is just, let's say I add something red, and let's say, or let me just say, if this is A and this is B, and then I can say number of characters, or in this case number of numbers, and that's why I'm saying characters and not numbers, because you might get confused. That would be equals to B minus A, right? So B minus A, that would be the number of characters. So hey, I'm starting from A and get me these number of characters. Okay, so now we know how positive slicing works, right? Let's move on to something like 2D arrays for a second, and then we're gonna come back to this again. Before I go to the 2D array, let me just tell you the step size. So you can also add a third parameter to this, and let's say if I say 1, that's just gonna say, okay, let's just do from 0 to 0 to, or 1 to 7. Right, so this is gonna get me from 1 to 7, which means get me 6 characters. So 0, 1, start from here until the end. Now if I do like this is basically saying, hey, get me 1 character. This would say, hey, get me every second character. So this one, skip this one, get this one, skip this one, and then get this one. If I do 3, then it's gonna skip 3 places. So get me this, skip these two, and get the third one. Sorry, let me correct myself. It would get you every third character. So get this, skip 2, then you get this, and then you would skip 2. And if I had an 8 over here, then I would also get, wait, so 2, 1, 2, skip. I get this, 1, 2, skip. I should get that. Why am I not? Is it? Oh, yeah, that, because I'm not increasing the size. There we go. 258. Another way how you could write this expression is that whenever there's something empty over here, for example over here, this means I'm starting from the very start. And whenever it's empty over here, it means till the end. So instead of like me determining what my size is, I could just do this, and that would also work. If I do like 9, 10. Okay, so get me 2, then skip these 2, then get me this, then skip 2, then get me this, then skip 2. So I would get on this one. There you go. Okay, so that's with the steps and how it basically works. So this basically just says get me every that character, right? So let me just write this over here. Okay, now we're gonna move on to 2D arrays. So let me just maintain this back to like 7 and get me towards 2D arrays very quickly. So I'm just gonna save this, and I'm gonna create a new cell, and I'm gonna call it an array. And the way how you write a numpy array is going to be np.array parentheses, right? So since it's a 2D array, I like to write my 2D arrays like in this format. Okay, made a mistake. Not a mistake, but like formatting stuff, some stuff. Okay, so we see that if it's a 1D array, right, what we have to do is we have to add a square bracket over here, right? And this round parentheses is for the numpy array function. So if I want to create a 2D array, I would just do 1, 2, 3, close that, add a comma, then do the same thing again. So 4, 5, 6, comma, and then 7, 8, 9, and there's one for that one. Okay, so now if I do print array, you can see I get this format. You can write your 2D arrays like this or like that, But remember that your NP array must be enclosed in these two things, right? So it's being enclosed by a round bracket, a square bracket, and then the rest of whichever values you have. Okay, so if I want to access any array element, I would do that by simply writing array. Let me get the first element. So let me get this one, and that's just one, right? So 0 column, 0 row, I get this thing. You can also write this in this way, with a comma. So it's up to you on which type of style do you prefer. Um, uh, I usually like this format because this is what I'm accustomed to C++, but you can also write it like this, and you would find that many different solutions of TP problems, dynamic problems are written in this way. Okay, so now that we've covered this thing, let's just do very quick slicing on this as well. So let me do array 0 comma 1. Okay, so I've done this one. I want to do 1 comma 1 colon 4. So before I do this, I want to predict what's going to be the answer. So hey, we're gonna go through this process. Hey, get me the first element. So the first element is going to be the first row. So let me just do this over here. Whoops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Get me the first row, which is like 0, 1. So this row, remember that this is the first, when we're talking in a 2D array, if there's no colon, we're always talking about positions, right? So the indexing is going to start from 0, 1 and not from 1, 2, 3, yada, yada, yada. So 0 to 1, so the first row. Then the second one tells me, okay, get me the element 1. So this is going to be 0, 1. Remember that the first part of the colon is always the position. And then I can just do 4 minus 1 and 3. So get me 3 columns, right? So 3 would basically means get to the first row. I'm talking about this column. Let me restrict that. So get me the first, get me this row, and then over here I am starting at this position. So I'm at this part, this 5, and then from there get me 3 characters. So that would be just 5 and 6. So if I write this down, I'm gonna get 5 and 6, right? If I do like something like 1 and 2, that would just mean 2 minus 1, just get me that element, just that element, right? So I do this and I just get that. Now let's look at the other one. So 0 colon 2 comma 2. So get me the first 2 rows, right? That's what it says, right? Start from 0 and then go till 2, but don't include the 2. So get me the first 2 rows. So it's going to be this part over here, right? And just get me the second column. So the second column is just going to be 0, 1, 2. So just this part over here. So let me just write this down in a different pencil. So 0, 1, 2, just get me this part. So the answer for this one is going to be 0, 2, 2, whoops, sorry, 2, 3, and 6. If I print that, it is also going to give me 3 comma 6, like, so that's 3 and 6. Okay, now we have, okay, what happens when we add columns on both sides? So I have like 0 colon 2 comma 1 colon 4. What's the answer of this one? Okay, let's go through this process. We have okay, 0 colon 2 means get me the first 2 rows. Got it, man. We got the first 2 rows. Got it. Now I need to get 1 to 4, which means start with the first column. So I am over here and go till get me 3 rows. So this whole part. So we're gonna get 2, 3, 5, 6. So 0 to 2, 1 to 4, 2, 3, 5, 6. right? Okay, now let's talk about negative indexing and negative slicing and all of that part, because that's a little bit confusing for some people. So for negative indexing, if I write, let me do the positive, find an element at a positive indexes. So for example, if I write print array 0 comma 1, this would mean, hey, get me the 0th row and the first column. So 0th row, first column is going to be 2. But if I say minus 2, and whenever there's going to be a minus, we're always going to talk about um, our indexing is going to be from any end or from any right position, right? And it's always going to start with negative 1. So since we were like starting from 0 over here, right? This was like starting from 0 over here. If I go from negative, this would be negative 1, negative 2. So we're going to say, hey, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. So 0 comma negative 2 basically means, let me just remove the highlight. So the 0th row, right, which is this one, and the second element is this one. So it's just going to return me 2. Right? If I say 0 comma minus 3, 0th row, get me the third character from the end. There we go, 1. So whenever it's negative, I just like to call it like get me that character, like as I was saying over here, right? Get me that character. So get me the character from the end. So if I say 0 comma negative 2, I would say 0th row and get me the third character from the end. So that's how I like to think of it. Okay, so now we know what these things basically means, right? Your if I have any let's say any np and numpy array, and if I'm applying yeah, so if you have any, let's assume that this is already initialized, right? So a is also, I'll just write it down, a dot np np dot array 1 2 3, just add this. So if I want to slice it, the first part is always going to be the position. The second part is going to be the position, but don't include that. And you're always going to say, hey, if you subtract both of those things, you're going to get the number of characters, which I've explained over here, right? And if you're talking about negative values, it just means go from the end and get me that value. Okay, so now we know a little bit about negative, how to deal with negatives, and how to deal with the first colon, the second colon, and all 3 colons side by side. Let's me take a look at these values, right? These are some very interesting ones. So we're gonna go back to our first 1D array, and we're gonna apply these things and try to predict their outputs. And based on that, we might have a very strong understanding of how to do slicing in Python. So 0 colon negative 2, what does this mean? This means start from 0th element, right? Start from 0, and negative 2 means get me the second character from the end. So 0 till the second character, 1 2, that's going to be 1 to 6, right? So let me just do list. What is the list of 0 to negative 2? And that is 1 2 5. Sorry, it doesn't include 6. So one thing that I made an error over here was, remember, this is like the combination of everything that we've studied, right? So this would be the position, this would be the position, but don't include. And whenever it's like in negative, I don't like to use this terminology. I don't like to use this thing. I just like to use the original terminology, which is like position, but don't include that thing. So position from 0 to the second last character, so 1 2, get me that character, but don't include that. So 1 2 5. Okay, so let me do another one because I got this one wrong. Let me do like 0 to negative 3, or like, yeah, negative 4 maybe. So from 0, get me the fourth character from the end. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 1 to 4, but I don't want the fourth character, so that's going to be 1, 2, 3. Okay, I got it now. Okay, next one is going to be, let's say, what is negative 2 to 0? I wonder what this is going to be. So negative 2 means, hey, start from the beginning. Sorry, start from the end. So negative 2, 1, 2, and go back to 0. So it's going to be in this way. But don't include the 0. So I think it's going to be like 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, maybe. No, it doesn't give you anything. So if you have anything negative in the start, it won't work. Okay, even if I do like 8. Okay, so this is giving, wait. If I have negative, so what did this did? Negative 2, so 1, 2, and then that. Yeah, so you can't, what I mean by that is the second element, if I do 1, I won't get anything. Okay, so what I mean by this is that you can't, if I have like negative 2 and my end is over here, I can't do that. Wait, let me explain this using an example. So I had my list, and this list is basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if we're talking about using only like only one colon, right? And if I have a negative value over here, which means let's say it's negative 2. So I'm saying, hey, I am over here, begin from here, and I did 0, right? Which means I want to end here. So this doesn't work. So your beginning and your end should be, you should first begin and then you should end. Like it can't go in the reverse order unless you add the third one, which we're going to look in a little while. Okay, so what's the input? What's the value of this one? Negative 3, negative 3 to 1, right? Again, 1, 2, 3. This would give me nothing. Again, negative 3, negative 1. Negative 3, negative 1 means the third character, so 1, 2, 3. And the first character, which is 7. So 5, 6, but don't include the 7. So I get 5 and 6. Then we have this one. 7 colon negative 2. Okay, so 7 colon negative 2. Okay, so this one is going to be, hey, I want to start from 7 position, which is this one, and I want to go to 0, right? This is this case, right? So let me just rewrite this. I'm on 7th, right? So I'm over here. This is begin, and I want to go over here, right? But as you can see, if I would have done this without let's say this thing, right, this would have given me nothing, right? It's not going to return me anything because begin is afterwards, after the end, right? So what negative 1 basically means is go in the opposite direction, right? So if I do this, now it's going to say, hey, go in the opposite direction, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If I do 2, that basically means get me every second character, right? So 7, 6, skip 6, get me 5. So 7, 5, 3, 1, I guess would be the answer. Yeah. And this basically means, hey, start with, this basically just means reverse the list. So if I do this, this is going to return me 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So now we have a very good understanding as to what is slicing. And for a quick recap, we're just going to follow this little stuff that I made, right? Let me just add one more point. Negative D means opposite direction. Okay, so if you have any, if you want to create an NP array, you're going to create it with using a parentheses and a square bracket together, and then your values. If it's a 2D array, then you would have to write another, this thing over here for it to work, and you would have commas for this to work, right? Um, the first part is always the position. The second part is always that position, but don't include that position, right? And the subtraction of both of those values, which is from the end, from the beginning, is always going to be the number of characters. In 2D arrays, we talked about negative indexes or negative positions, and negative basically just means get that correct that character from the end, right? The third step basically means get me every that character. So if I say something like 0, 2, 3, so I want every third character. So if I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, get me every third character. So first get me this, then the third character is gonna be skipped to this one, right? So 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, right? I can just verify that as well. No, sorry, yeah, there we go. 147. This had to be this thing. Okay. And if there's negative d over here, that just basically means, hey, I want to go in the opposite direction. If it's negative in terms of slicing, right? If I have something like a colon negative b, then that just basically means, hey, don't include that position, right? But get uh so oops, let me just write this in a proper way. That character from the end, but don't include it. And that's it. That is slicing.